Okay, so good evening, everyone. So for today, we're going to discuss about e-government and public administration. Again, e-government is also with e-governance, no, refers to the use of digital technologies such as the internet and mobile devices to deliver government services and information to citizens. No, so the ultimate goal of e-government is to provide an increased portfolio of public services to citizens, no, in an efficient and a cost-effective manner while promoting transparency, accessibility, and accountability. While there are many potential advantages to e-government, and there are also several disadvantages that must be considered. And to give us more details about the topic, let us all welcome our presenter. Go ahead.
So, good evening, Doc. Good evening, classmates. So, ngayong gabi po, i-discuss ko po is about sa electronic government, yung mga legal and policy framework of e-government. So first, what is e-government? E-governance refers to the use of ICT by the government to enhance, assess to and deliver of service to bring about efficient, responsible, ethical, accountable, and transparent government. The bill designates the Department of Information and Communication. So, last meeting po, na-discuss na rin po ng ibang reporter yung deep meaning po ng e-governments sa organization or sa pamamalakad po ng specific na organization. Ang tatakal ko is iilan lamang po sa mga existing legislative and policy framework on e-governance. So, siguro hindi po ako ganun kabihasa para i-tackle po lahat. So, ang itatakal ko lang po is yung mga basic or yung mga lagi natin na i-encounter. So, number one is yung Republic Act 10173 or Data Privacy Act, which provide the legal framework of protecting digitalized personal information of individuals held by the government and the private sectors and creation of the National Privacy Commission. Ang three main objectives, by the way, ang Republic Act 10173, pinopose siya noong June 6, 2012, pero na-approve siya as law noong August 15, 2012 by President Benigno Aquino. Ang Data Privacy Act ay combination ng Senate Bill 2965 by Angara and House Bill 4115 by Congressman Susan Yap and Ramon Romulo. Ang three main objectives ng Data Privacy Act ay sa personal information. Yung pag sinabi natin personal information, kapag nagtatrabaho tayo, ito yung mga 201 files natin, contract, yung mga profile natin, o yung mga investigation report ng halimbawa sa ER, yung mga ganun po. Number two is the privileged information. So pag sinabi natin privileged information, any and all forms of data which under the rule of court. Number three is the sensitive information. Pag sinabi natin sensitive information, ito yung mga informations na information report, investigation report. So ang main objective ng Data Privacy Act ay para protektahan itong tatlong informations na ito para hindi siya basta-basta ma-disclose or hindi siya basta-basta may bibigay na sa kahit kanino. So mapapansin natin, halimbawa po, meron po sa HR. So kapag may tumawag sa kanila for verification, hindi agad-agad nagbibigay ang HR ng information natin, not unless, for example, tatanungin muna nila kung ito ba, dinisclose po ba ni employee yung ganito? For example, yung mga salary or yung mga address nila. So, halimbawa kapag meron nagtanong na bangko for verification, nagtatanong muna ang HR kung dinisclose ba ni employee yung data na hinihingi nila. So kung wala namang dinidisclose, hindi dapat magbigay si HR ng personal information kasi nga lahat ng organization, mapa-public man or sa private organization, meron na tayong tinatawag ngayon na Data Privacy Act na kung saan kapag na-disclose tayo ng mga informations na hindi alam ng may-ari or hindi alam nung person na yon na ibinibigay yung information, pwedeng maging liable kung sino yung nag-disclose ng information. Next, a right of the subject. Right natin ito bilang isang individual na may-ari ng information. Number one, right to be informed. Pag sinabi natin right to be informed, kailangan alamin muna kung karapatan natin bilang may-ari ng information kung para saan yung kukunin na information. So, hindi basta-basta ibibigay yung information kung hindi alam kung ano yung purpose para doon sa information na hinihingi. Next is be furnished. Dapat bigyan ng copy ang may-ari ng information. So, dapat, alam mo, kapag may humingi ng information, yung lahat ng information na ibinigay or dinisclose, kailangan merong kopya yung may-ari ng information. For example, tayo yung may-ari ng information. So, merong second party na humihingi ng information na yun sa specific na organization. So, lahat ng ibinigay dapat nung pinaghingian ng information, dapat well-informed si may-ari at meron siyang kopya kung ano-ano yung mga information na ibinigay patungkol sa kanya. Kung ang information na kung information na yon ay pinapasok ba sa system, kung paraan or purpose ng pagpasok sa system, scope and methods of personal information, or kung paano pinoproseso yung information na hiningi. So dapat din yung recipient or alam ng may-ari ng information kung para or sino yung recipient nung pinagbigyan ng information patungkol sa kanya. Tapos yung alam din niya dapat yung methods pag-utilize ng automated access o paano ibinigay sa third party. Naka-email ba yan, through phone call, or through hard copy, dapat alam din ng may-ari. Then, dapat alam ng may-ari kung hanggang kailan yung storage ng information. Just for instance, dapat isang taon lang dapat yung information na yon. So, dapat alam niya as may-ari na yung information ko is na-stored sa specific na system for 1 year or for 2 years. Next, reasonable access to upon demand. Content of his or her personal information is where processed. Sources from which personal information were obtained and reason for disclosure, manner by which data are processed. So, kailangan alam niya yung mga rason bakit hiningi yung mga informations niya. Next, dispute the inaccuracy or error in the personal information. So, dapat alam ng may-ari kung ano ang i-correct. Halimbawa, merong mali doon sa information na ibinigay niya. So, siya mismo, as may-ari, alam niya kung ito ay kinorek ni ganito. Di ba mapapansin natin yung sa mga halimbawa, sa bangko, bago nila sinisave yung information, tinitilt muna nila yung screen para ipakita sa may-ari ng information na ito yung mga binago or ito ay pinalitan nila. So, ipapacheck muna yung dapat sa may-ari. So, bilang may-ari ng information, dapat alam natin or kikilalanin natin ng karapatan na yun na hindi basta-basta dapat papalitan ng ibang tao yung informations natin. Next is suspend or withdraw or order the blocking or removal or destruction. So, may karapatan tayo bilang may-ari ng information na ipa-withdraw o suspend natin or hindi ipagamit yung mga information natin lalo na kapag may mga mali. Next is be indemnified for any damages. Kapag merong mga incorrect, yung mga any damages, incorrection, yung mga incomplete or outdated or mga false na information, may karapatan tayo na papalitan yun or may karapatan tayo na hindi ipagamit yung ating mga informations. So since ng Data Privacy Act ay nagpoprotekta sa nabanggit dito yung karapatan ng isang individual, meron din naman mga instances na yung mga karapatan na yun ay ma-invalidate or hindi applicable. For example is ito yung mga exemptions of the law. Sumpina. So kapag ang isang individual ay nabigyan ng sumpina, hindi kinikilala yung ibang karapatan niya na nabanggit kanina na yung mga informations niya, ganun yung mga kung saan siya nakatira, mga ganun. Hindi na kailangan ipaalam sa kanya kasi nga mga legal moves yon. So kailangan hindi niya malaman. So isa yun sa exemption. Number two is obvious purpose, yung with disclosure of agreement. So, halimbawa, sa mga kontrata natin. So, sa isang organization, halimbawa, sa HR, so, ikaw mismo yung nag-disclose ng mga informations mo sa application. So, once na disclose mo yun, um, hindi na kailangan yung go signal mo kung merong hahanapin doon sa data mo kasi nga meron ka ng dinisclose mo yon, may disclosure agreement kayo. Next is contract or services, yung sa mga hiring agreements natin. Employer and employee relationship. So, for example, di ba ang cellphone number natin is considered as data privacy natin. So, since na halimbawa, for example, sa delivery kayo. So sa delivery, yung employer mo, hindi na niya kailangan, hindi mo makontak yung pupuntahan mo. So hindi na kailangan ipaalam pa sa'yo na ibibigay yung contact number mo sa kasamahan mo kasi nga as employer, may karapatan siya na ibigay yon para makipag-communicate ka doon sa kausap mo or doon sa kasamahan mo. Next is legal obligations. Ito na yung mga, for example, yung mga CCTV footage ng isang establishment kapag merong for example, merong nangyari na insidente, although na ang mga CCTV footage ay kailangan idaan sa korte para makuha natin yung kopya, pero yung minsan kasi kapag hindi natin ibinigay yon or kapag may itinanong, nagiging liable pa tayo na pinagtanungan. So para ma-avoid natin yung mga obstruction of justice, kailangan makipag-coordinate tayo. So ito yung mga exemptions na nagpoprotekta sa Data Privacy Act. Next is the Cybercrime Prevention Act of 2012 or RA 10175 is a law draft to support the data privacy law, referred to the offense against the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of computer data and system. So, parang katulong siya ni Data Privacy Act. Ito naman is mga sa cybercrime naman ito. Kung meron nangyayari na actual, meron din naman nangyayari through internet. So, itong RA 10175, ito yung existing law na nagpoprotekta sa karapatan ng isang individual pagdating naman sa cybercrime. Mga offenses sa cybercrime. Illegal access. Pag sinabi natin illegal access, ito yung mga unauthorized access to the whole or any part of computer system. So, ito yung paggamit ng computer system na hindi alam nung may-ari ng specific na unit na yon. Next is illegal interception. Illegal interceptions made by a technician means without the right of any non-public transmission of computer data to form or any computer system. So ito naman yung pagpasok, illegal na pagpasok sa mga system ng isang organization. Next is data interference. Pag sinabi natin data interference, altercation, damaging, deletion, or deterioration of computer data without the right, including the introduction of transmissions of viruses. So, ito naman is yung pagsira sa isang system or pag-introduce ng viruses or pag-delete ng mga information sa isang system. For example, yung isa sa naranasan natin is yung sa PhilHealth. So, another form of data interference yun kasi nga pinasok yung system nila. So, kapag merong na-delete sa information na yun, na-delete or paglalagay ng viruses, isa yun sa mga offenses ng RA 10175. Next is system interference. Hindering the functions of computer or computer network without authority, including introduction or transmission of the viruses. So, ito, pagsira naman ito sa system. Next is misuse of device. The use or production, scale, procurement, importation, distribution, or making available. So, ito naman is yung pagbibenta, for example, yung pagbibenta ng mga system, illegal na pagbenta ng system, illegal na pagbenta ng mga softwares. So, another form of offenses in RA 10175. Next is another offenses is yung sa mga illegal access ng computer, mga computer related forgery, computer related fraud, computer related identity theft. Ito naman is yung pagnanakaw naman yun sa mga datas natin. Next is Cybercrime Prevention Act of 2012, yung sa Commonwealth Act of number 591. So by the way, yung sa mga content related of offenses po is meron din po mga crimes na pwede natin ma-violate. For example, yung mga child pornography, yung ginagamit natin yung mga bata sa porn, mga cyber squatting, cyber sex, or cyber libel. Isa rin yun siya sa mga violation under sa RA 10175. So another is another law that pertaining the right of privacy and confidentiality is yung sa Commonwealth Act number 591. Ito yung unauthorized the Bureau of the Census and Statistics to prepare for and undertake all censuses of population, agriculture, and commerce. The Republic Act number 310 sets aside an appropriation for the taking of 1961 economic census. Next is Republic Act 1161 or the SSS law. So, the act to create the social security system providing the sickness, unemployment, retirement, and disability and death benefit for the employees. So, ito sa SSS law, including yung mga kasambahin natin or domestic worker o not over 60 years old of age, ay kasama siya sa SSS law. So, mapapansin natin kapag naglo-loan tayo sa SSS, hindi na siya papel yung ginagamit kasi nga nag-o-online lang tayo. So, since na lahat ng informations natin ay binibigay natin or dinidisclose natin, ang SSS ay protektado siya ng Cybercrime Prevention Act. So, ibig sabihin, yung mga data privacy natin is kailangan isi-secure din ni SSS kasi nga lahat ng mga vitals informations natin ay binibigay natin sa kanila. Also, the law mandates compulsory coverage of the self-employed as stated in the section 91A. So, hindi lang employed ang pinoprotektahan ng SSS law, pati yung mga self-employed. So, yung sila na mismo yung nagbibigay ng mga contributions nila, hindi na dumadaan sa kanilang employer. Ay, nagkabaliktad, sorry. Next is Republic Act 1405 or Bank Secrecy Law, prohibiting to disclose of or inquiring into deposits with any banking institution and providing penalty thereof. So, sa bank secrecy, di ba mapapansin natin, hindi natin pwedeng i-inquire yung information ng ibang tao, kahit na asawa pa natin yan, kaibigan natin, or magulang natin, hindi natin pwedeng itanong sa bangko kung magkano na yung deposits nila, magkano yung savings nila, kung ano yung mga transactions nila. Kahit na merong authorization na ibinibigay, hindi ibibigay ng bangko yung mga hinihingi natin na information kasi nga ang bangko is naka-bind sa bank secrecy law kung saan pinoprotektahan dapat ng bangko ang mga informations ng kanilang mga clients. Under this law, all deposits are strictly confidential and may not be inquired or looked into except on the following grounds. Permissions of the depositor. So since the permission, kailangan nire-require din ng bangko na magkaroon ng SPA bago nila i-disclose yung information. Kumbaga, merong signed ng depositor at saka signed ng representative ng depositors. So, number 2 is yung cases of impeachment. So, sa cases of impeachment, pwedeng mag-disclose si bangko kapag merong impeachment na nangyayari. Kasi nga, kailangan merong permission muna sa court bago magbibigay si bangko. Number 2, order of competent court in cases of bribery or dereliction of duty. So, yung sinabi ko kanina, kapag may mga cases, yun lang pwedeng mag-disclose si bangko. Pero may mga protocol silang sinusunod. Dapat signed yun siya ng court. Republic Act 4200 o wiretapping law. An act prohibit the unauthorized intersection or the regarding of any private communication or spoken words to tap any wire or cable or by using any other devices or arrangement to secretly overhear, intercepts, or record such communications. So, maalala natin yung Hello Garci. So, yung Hello Garci, di ba hindi siya ginamit sa court kasi nga pinagbabawal yung pagtatap ng information, yung by means of communication na hindi mo in-inform yung kausap mo na recorded yung information, yung recorded yung pinag-uusapan ninyo. So mapapansin natin, for example, sa mga administrative hearing. So sa administrative hearing, pwedeng gamitin yung pinag-usapan ninyo as long as dinisclose mo doon sa hinihearing mo na ang paglilitis na ito is audio recorded. So kapag sinabi mo na gano'n at aware naman si si tao na gagamitin yung information mo or na-record yon, ibig sabihin value kumbaga may halaga yung information mo. Pero kapag hindi siya inform na ang pinag-usapan ninyo is naka-record, hindi siya pwedeng gamitin sa any legal procedures. Primary categories nung wiretapping is hardwired, soft record, and transmission. Next is Republic Act 9372 or Human Security Act. Provide for the state's policy to protect life, liberty, and property from act of terrorism. Next is the new law have been enacted to address the evil violence against women, such as number 1 is the Republic Act number 9995 or Anti-Photo and Video Voyeurism Act of 2009. It protects the victim who are made to believe that they are performing sexual act in the private. Ito yung mga sikretong pagbi-video, usually yun sa mga hotel na kapag may nagche-check-in, binivideoan nila or kumbaga nagse-set sila ng mga hidden cam. So once na nahuli tayo, liable tayo doon. Next is Republic Act 9775, an act defining the crime of child pornography. Refer to any representation, whether visual, audio, or written combination thereof by electronic, mechanical, digital, optical, magnetic, or any other means of child engaged, involved in real or stimulate explicit sexual activities. Ito sa bata naman to. So yung 'di ba merong mga cases na nangyayari yung pagvi-video sa mga bata na nakahubad or yung mga conversation, audio conversation or mga written or mga combination ng video, audio or written, pwedeng magiging liable yung isang tao sa Republic Act 9775 under sa VAUSI. Republic Act 7610, Anti-Child Abuse, refer to the maltreatment, whether habitual or not, of the child, which include any of the following: psychological, physical abuse, neglect, cruelty, sexual abuse, and demolition, emotional maltreatment. So, hindi lang physical na abuse yung covered nito. Pwede rin yung mga psychological or kapag hindi tayo pinabayaan natin yung anak natin, hindi tayo nagsusustento. So kasama rin siya mako-consider din siya sa Republic Act 7610 or Anti-Child Abuse. So violation po 'yun. Next, any act by deeds or words which debases, degraded, or demeans the instinct, worth, and dignity of the child as human being. So, yung masyado natin dinidegrade yung mga bata. So, kasi ang word natin as adult, yun yung tumatatak sa mga isipan ng kabataan. Unreasonable deprivation of his basic needs for survival. So yung nabanggit ko kanina, hindi pagbibigay ng tamang sustento sa mga bata. Failure to immediately give medical treatment to an injured, resulting his serious impairment of his growth and development or in his permanent incapacity or death. So pag hindi pagbibigay ng medical treatment sa kanila. So siguro sa mga medical teams, kapag hindi nila binigyan ng pansin yung mga bata, so pwede silang magiging liable sa anti-child abuse. Next is Freedom of Information Bill or FOI. an integral element of the administration's good governance and anti-corrupt plan of 2012 to 2016, pursues greater transparency, accountability, and citizen participation in the government. It's provide for full public disclosure of all government records involving public interest and upholds the constitutional rights of the people to information on matter of public concerns. Importance of FOI or Freedom of Information Bill, strengthening transparency. So, kapag yung mga information na ano ba nangyayari sa isang government or sa isang LGU, pinapatibay nito ang transparency. For example, yung pinapakita or ini-inform si citizen na yung budget natin is allotted for ganito, ito yung mga projects natin. So, by means of that, yung transparency ng isang organization ay nabibuild up. Next is ensuring government accountability. So, since na merong pondo na inilabas, kung sino yung accountable sa yung accountable sa budget na yon is pinag-iingatan niya. Providing public knowledge, binibigyan natin yung citizen ng kaalaman kung saan na napunta yung pera ng bayan. Also providing the kumbaga iniiwasan or na-prevent natin yung corruption kasi nga yung freedom of information binibigay or pinifed natin sa citizens, sa public kung ano yung mga nangyayari. Kumbaga transparent tayo sa kanila. Next is RA 8793 or Philippine E-commerce Law of 2000. This law recognized the use of electronic commercial and non-commercial transactions and electronic signatures, prescribed penalties for privacy of protected materials using telecommunication networks and for hacking of computer programs, and prescribed grounds of liabilities of the service providers. So, pag sinabi nating e-commerce, ang e-commerce maintain relationship of conducting business transactions by means of computers and telecommunications network. So, ang example nito is yung mga Lazada, Shopee. So, hindi lang physical store yung nakikita natin sa ngayon or kung saan tayo bumibili. Meron ding tayong tinatawag na e-commerce na kumbaga online lang tayo. Online natin nabibili yung mga produkto. So, since na online yan, ang RA 8792 or the Philippine E-commerce Law, pinoprotektahan niya yung consumers na hindi magamit or pinoprotektahan niya mga consumers laban sa mga maling paggamit ng kanilang mga information, especially yung mga electronic signatures, yung mga addresses or yung mga nilagay natin na 'di ba minsan nagli-link tayo ng mga bank account natin. So, isa sa nagpoprotekta sa atin laban sa mga cybercrime is yung Philippine E-commerce Law of 2000. Ang objectives nito ay to facilitate domestic and international dealing transactions. So, also arrange the agreement, contract exchange, storage of information through the utilization of electronic and optical and similar medium mode, instrumentality and technology to recognize the authenticity and reliabilities. Next is what is electronic signature. Electronic signature is an efficient and legal way to get electronic documents signed quickly. It is also the digital version of conventional handwritten signature. So, isa dito example is yung sa pag-a-apply natin ng mga UMID IDs or yung sa mga national IDs. 'Di ba mayroon tayong pinipirmahan doon na electronic signature tapos yun na yung ilalagay nila sa ID natin. Yun na isa sa example ng electronic signature. Salient features give legal recognitions of electronic data messages, electronic documents, and electronic signatures. Allow the information of contract in electronic forms, provides the mandates of the electronic implementation of transport documents to facilitate carriage of goods, mandates the government to have the capacity to do e-commerce within 2 years before June 19, 2002. It is also mandates the RP Web to be implemented. So pag sinabi nating RP Web, it is a strategy that intend to connect all government offices to the internet and provide universal access to the general public. Example nito is yung bago ngayon na yung eGov yung super app na ini-introduce sa atin ngayon ni DICT. Next is made cable, broadcast, and wireless physical infrastructure within the activity of the telecommunications. It is also empowered the Department of Trade and Industry to supervise the development of the e-commerce. It is also provide as to when the service providers can be liable, authorized, and authorities and parties with a legal right can be only gain access to the electronic documents, electronic data messages, and electronic signature. Hacking or cracking, privacy through the use of telecommunications and network. All existing law, such as Consumer Act of Philippines, also apply to e-commerce transactions. So ito yung mga features ng e-commerce. Next is Executive Order number 810 series of 2009. Institutionalize the certification scheme for digital signature and directing the application of digital signature in e-government signature. So, pag sinabi nating digital signature is an electronic encrypted stamp or authentication on digital information such as email, email messages, or electronic documents. So, digital signature also confirm the integrity of the messages. So, ang pagkakaiba ng digital signature sa electronic signature, yung assurance mo na, kumbaga yung security mo is hindi mataas kumpara sa digital signature. Kasi ang digital signature, ito yung type ng electronic signature, ito yung type ng signature na encrypted or stamp or authentication, digital information such as email messages or electronic documents. So hindi siya basta-basta, may double layer protection siya or hindi siya basta-basta magamit na ibang tao kasi nga encrypted siya, mayroong authentication na nangyayari. So, not unlike sa e-signature, pwede siyang kopyahin ng ibang tao. So, yun ang pagkakaiba ni digital signature sa e-signature. Ang purpose ng digital signature is for authentication. Gives the receiver reasons to believe the message was created and sent by the claimed sender. So, for example, sa email messages, ma-authenticate natin na ang email na ito is nanggaling kay Juan de la Cruz. Kasi nga, kumbaga, encrypted siya or electronic document siya na nakapangalan sa'yo. Next is non-repudiation. With digital signature, the sender cannot deny any sent the messages later on. So, hindi siya pwede magsabi na hindi nanggaling sa akin yan. So, kumbaga, dito pa lang, alam na natin na yung integrity nung sa digital signature, meron siya integrity kasi nga, yung messages na yon or yung galing sa email is alam mo na siya lang mismo yung pwedeng gumawa noon. Not unlike sa e-signature, pwedeng gamitin ng kahit na sino. Next is integrity. A digital signature ensures that messages was not altered in transmit. So, once na na-send yan, along the way, hindi ka mag-aalala na ay na may nangyayaring kababalagan or merong altercation na nangyayari doon sa pagsesend ng information. So, may integrity yung sinend na information sa'yo. For example, through email. Next is RA 9184, otherwise known as the Government Procurement Reform Act, for the purpose of prescribing the necessary rules and regulation for the modernization, standardization, and regulation of procurement activities of the government of the Philippines. 5 pillars of procurement. Number 1 is cost. To find the lowest sa procurement, number 1 is the cost. Find the lowest possible cost for the product or services. So number 2 is the quality. The buyers want to make sure that they get it up par. So yung quality na yun, syempre kapag nag-procure ka, merong mga yung mga product or yung mga binili mo is merong mga specs yan. So, doon pa lang is nare-review mo na yung quality nung specific na product na bibilin mo. Timeliness. Buyer wants goods to service as soon as possible. So, merong time frame kung kailan may di-deliver yung mga binili mo. So, next is yung legitimacy. So, sa legitimacy, so since na procurement yan, legit yung mga nagbebenta, ma-avoid natin yung mga scammer. Next is the efficiency. Sa efficiency naman, masisi to it nung buyer or yung nag-procure na yung product na mabibili nila or yung mga na-procure nila is efficient versus sa pera nila. Kumbaga kung ano yung halaga ng pera nila, masisituate nila na yung product na binili niya is efficient. Procurement is important part of the company and it is vital that all businesses area are integrated in order to ensure the best possible outcomes. Through these 5 pillars, understanding the customer's needs, acquiring the right of product, meeting the contractual obligation, and pricing correctly and delivering on time. Next is RA 10844. The law that created the DICT emphasized the importance of information and communication technology or ICT infrastructure, systems, and resources to ensure universal access to quality, affordable, reliable, and secure ICT services. Ang scope nito is to recognize the vital role of information and communication in nation building. Next is to promote the development and widespread use of emerging ICT and foster and accelerate the convergence of ICT and ICT-enabled facilities. It is also ensure the availability of and accessibility of ICT services in the area not adequately served by the private sector. Next is, it is also promote the use of ICT for the enhancement of key public services such as education, public health, safety, revenues, generations, and social civic purposes. It is also promote the digital literacy of ICT expertise. Next is ang ICT, ang RA 10844 Act of 2015 ay signed as law noong May 23, 2016. Ito na yung mga scope ng ICT to recognize the vital role of information and communication and nation building. Next is to promote the development and widespread use of emerging ICT and faster and accelerate the converge of ICT and ICT-enabled facilities. Next, to ensure the availability and accessibility of ICT services in areas not adequately served by the private sectors. It is also promote the use of ICT for the enhancement of key public services such as education, public health and safety, revenues, generations, and social civics purposes. It is also promote the digital literacy or ICT expertise. RA 10844 also focuses on nation building through ICT, safeguard of information, advancement of ICT in the Philippines. So, yun lang po. Maraming salamat po. So, siguro si Doc marami pa pong may dadagdag kasi since na law po ito, so hindi ko po porte ang batas. So, ito lang yung base sa research ko na under siya sa e-governance po. So, maraming salamat po.
Thank you so much for our presenter. No? So actually the presenter naman be able to discuss the available legislative and policy frameworks on all governance in our country. But we have a new law, no, but still the E-Governance Act of 2022. I don't know if you've heard already about the e-governance and open access. They say it takes a village to raise a child, no, and in an almost the same way, it takes a nation to spur change, no. So to further push our vision of financially inclusive digital economy, the laws of the land should greatly help the fintech industry in doing so. So our dream, no, in the Philippines, no, to flourish and thrive in the cash-light digital forward society, just like our neighboring countries are already doing so. No? Gone are the days of cash-dependent transactions, paper-centric processes, and slow and efficient services. It is time to adopt and catch up, and with the Marcos administration set on ramping up the digitalization of the government, and we are on our way, no, in the Philippines, no. So the government's efforts towards digitalization are in line with our vision and the 8-point socioeconomic agenda, no, which includes eliminating red tape in the government processes and digitizing and centralizing important government data. So what we need now is a financial ecosystem that is built on transparency, hinged on efficiency, strengthened by convenience, and takes pride in accountability. So I believe that the proposed e-Governance Act will help us achieve this. So by ensuring quick and efficient services that will spur the safe, secure, and convenient digital economy all Filipinos deserve to participate in. So what is the e-Governance Act of 2022? This would mandate the government to implement an integrated, interconnected, and interoperable information and resource sharing communication network. So that could connect all national and local government units. The communication network will act as an internal records management information system, a centralized information database, and open digital portals for the delivery of public services. Okay. Now, using the power of digital infrastructure, no, information technology and communication technology, traditional paper-based workflows and processes will now be turned to digital and making everyone's lives easier, more efficient, and more transparent. It's about time that the delivery of public services should be seamless and secure. So with this measure, the government officials and citizens will experience firsthand how technology and digital innovations can improve their daily quality of life and give them the ease and peace of mind they deserve. So, almost everything is done online nowadays. Shopping, medical consultation, bill payments, and even live events. Shouldn't basic public service follow suit? Now, so the COVID-19 pandemic showed us how critical digital is. Unable to leave our homes during the lockdown, completing basic tasks like paying bills, buying medicines, and withdrawing cash were almost impossible for millions of Filipinos, especially those in far-flung regions. So, the pandemic truly highlighted the painful and large gaps in our society, especially in the delivery of government services around the country. Even prior to the pandemic, no, applying for a government ID or renewing your passport was a burden to the general public because inaccessible locations, understaffed and packed offices, long queues, no, expensive fees, lack of online resources, delivery delays, and heavy dependence on physical appointments. With the e-governance law in effect, a digitized version of the government will prevail. The proposed e-governance roadmap will be spearheaded by the Department of Information and Communication Technology. May taga-DICT dito. Led by a visionary and an e-governance champion, DICT Undersecretary Dave Almirol. Personally, kilala ko siya. No? He harmonizes and rationalizes the digital assets of the bureaucracy and fully participate in this technologically advanced economy. One passed and signed into law. It would also encourage digital and tech expert and professionals to join the government with compensation that would be at par with the private sector. So linkages between agencies will be quicker and information will be more easily accessible to citizens. Database building, interagency coordination, open source training, open resource sharing, and clear interregional communication. The possibilities are endless. So, the e-Governance Act also create the Philippine Infrastructure Management Corp, which would ensure the proper and efficient management of our ICT asset. The body will also be in charge of educating the masses and government officials on these assets. The law would also create the integrated government network, the primary digital source of all resources, information, and data that can be shared to digital platforms across the government agencies. And these moves would greatly minimize delays and miscommunication between agencies and promote transparency via reliable digital resource sharing. So again, the COVID-19 pandemic merely expedited the changes we knew we needed for a long time. As the country moves forward amid a slow but steady post-pandemic economic recovery, now is the best time to implement this measure. It is already a clear priority for the government as the Congress Complementary Open Access in Internet Services Act has also just been approved by the House of Representatives on its third reading last December. And the immediate enactment of the proposed law is key. Is key in not only supporting the e-Governance Act, but also adhering to the Marcos administration's goal of promoting universal, seamless, and secure connectivity for Filipinos. If passed into law, the Open Access in Internet Services Act would allow industry players to create a simpler and more efficient licensing process in all segments of the band networks, which will allow more internet service providers as a fair opportunity to operate their own networks. And this would grant more undeserved regions internet connectivity, which is crucial in fostering financial inclusions for all. It would also provide a policy and regulatory framework for digital connectivity that will ease the outdated legal obstacle that have stifled the growth of Philippine internet for decades. Now, with the help of the industry and most importantly, the administration, we can quickly get to work on building a strong foundation for our inevitably digital future. Okay. Digital future, no? So how can we do this, no? By fostering a more a responsive environment that is quick and adapted to the people's needs. No, this all starts with bringing basic goods and services closer and easier to the people. And the proven way to do this is through massive digitalization and progress. Lito Villanueva is an award-winning thought leader on the digital transformation in inclusive digital finance. He is the Executive Vice President and Chief Innovation and Inclusion Officer of the RCBC. No? Concurrently, he is the Chief Digital Transformation Advisor for the Yochenko Group of Companies. He is also the founding chairman, no, of FinTech-Alliance.ph. So the Philippine largest organizations of startup and unicorns, no, that collectively generates over 90% of digital transactions volume in the country today. He was recently elected global chairman of the South Africa-based Alliance of Digital Association. Okay, so I think that's it for this topic, and thank you very much to our presenter for sharing the complete e-governance this one, the legal and policy frameworks for e-governance. So